and welcome to Wildly Curious, where the questions are unhinged, the science is real, and honestly, we're just getting started. I'm Laura.
And I'm Katy. And...
Ever wonder why a bat might glow? Or how frogs made it to space long ago? Dinosaurs trained for delivery runs. We're asking the questions, the weird ones. Wildly curious, where science gets strange and kinda hilarious. For nature's wonders to ancient funk, it's facts and fun rolled into one big chunk. Wildly curious, weird is wonderful. Come join the fuss.
All right, we're just going to start recording.
Okay.
Let me hide all my beard.
Multiple koozies. My nature news is that I have done it. I have graduated 5 years later.
Diggles just opened the door
it's really
behind you.
creepy.
Either that or a ghost just came
It could
in.
be both, but here's
Yeah.
Diggles. The ghost.
Okay. Woo! That was close. Could have been a ghost.
I have graduated. It has been 5 years. 5
Woohoo.
years.
Yeah.
One class at a time. Finally did it. I officially graduated end of July. So I now have a master's
With your
Master's
master's.
of Education in Environmental Education from Slippery Rock. Great program.
Heck yes.
I will certainly do it if anybody wants info.
I've convinced 2 other people to join up, including Laura.
Yeah.
So it's a fantastic program. We got Laura did environmental education. I did park and resource management. Fantastic program. Fantastic school.
Yeah.
I learned a lot. I talked to other people who are going through their master's program right now, and they don't have as much fun as I did. I genuinely enjoyed my classes.
Yeah, I definitely learned stuff. There are, of course, that are classes that are more engaging than other ones, but in general, I didn't feel like any of them were a waste.
Yeah, heck no. No, I really liked it. So, woohoo, Laura's done.
I'm a master.
I'm a master, believe it or not. Alrighty, we're talking about seeds.
Yep.
And although the plants might not walk, their seeds sure have ways of getting around. But
Not that we're shaming them or anything.
no, yeah, for not being able to walk, no. That would be creepier if they could.
Yeah.
That's for
no,
sure.
I don't want plants to be able to walk.
I'm already convinced that they know more than what we give them. We don't give them enough credit for knowing stuff.
Walking would be a step too far.
Yes, right.
And as you guys are about to hear, they have still a way of getting around.
Yep. So we're going to talk about seed dispersals and how they get around. And so Laura and I, we divided up there's 4 different mechanisms that we talked about for seed dispersal.
Yeah, I mean, there's more than that, but, seed dispersal just is the way that seeds get around, and we just decided to cover a couple of them.
Yeah. Or whatever's beyond a few of them. Because there's 4. So do you want to start?
Sure. I had 2 different ones. Let's start with water. So everybody listening, think about some plants that you might know and think about how do their seeds spread? How do they get around? I bet most people are thinking like air or being eaten by something, but I'm going to talk about water first, and that's known as hydrochory. So obviously...
Oh, I didn't know. I never thought of the name of it.
No, either. Not really. I think I've heard it in passing, but it didn't really stick.
Yeah.
Obviously, all plants need water to grow, but some more and some less. However, some rely on water to carry their seeds from one location to another, especially those that grow near it, which makes sense. Why develop new ways?
Yeah, it makes sense.
When water does it for you. So I have 2 examples and how they work, because although these things both use water, they use them in slightly different ways.
Okay.
So one major example is the coconut, or from the coconut palm.
Oh, yeah. I guess I never thought about that.
I never did either. So when you
Yeah.
picture an island or a tropical beach, chances are you're imagining palm trees, specifically ones with coconuts. Going down a rabbit hole of this one, scientists don't know where coconuts came from. Like, you know how you can go back through evolution of plants and things and animals.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
maybe. They think it might have actually started on the supercontinent Gondwana, something with coral atolls. I don't know, it's complicated. But now they're found in more than 200 countries and are an incredibly important crop in the tropics. Each tree can produce up to 100 coconuts annually, all taking a full year to ripen, which is a pretty long time for a seed. They're each one single seed, technically called a drupe. Once they do ripen, they drop to the ground, which can be incredibly dangerous for anyone walking around or underneath.
Right.
I remember when we did our stuff in Costa Rica on a coconut plantation, they were like, watch out.
Be aware.
And when they do fall, they can bounce and roll 30 feet from their parent tree, which is actually plenty far away to be able to disperse if you really need to.
Yeah.
But they were like, nah, that's not far enough.
And let me take a second here, too. So I think we talked about this in an early episode. So a lot of us millennials grew up being taught that trees compete for space, that they're constantly in competition. But more and more research has come out that's actually not true. That whenever it's like one of a quote unquote family, they
support,
move to make sure that there's room for everybody, but it's not a competition. So yes, they need to move because they want to spread out their genes and spread out that family net. Not so much as what we used to think is that, oh, they got to spread out because it's competition.
Or like their parent will choke them out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So scientists do believe, though, that they have evolved to disperse by water. So the outside of the coconut has a thin waterproof exocarp, which is like their little waterproof jacket on the outside, and then within that is a fibrous husk, which most people think of when they think of a coconut. And then inside that is the hard shell. The coconuts can be a variety of colors. What I didn't know is, I mean, it totally makes sense. They're a crop now. We have done a lot to change coconuts, like domestic coconuts.
Oh, I believe that, yeah.
So in wild coconuts, they're typically like elongated and actually angular, not round, like we're thinking.
Yeah.
So the husk itself is, like I said, it could be a variety of colors, but typically long. Also, in wild varieties, the husk is more than half the biomass of the whole thing, which means more husk than anything else. So let's say the coconut that you buy at the store, that is just the hard shell. Yes, there's some fiber on the outside, but essentially that's just the seed part. The rest of the coconut is inside a fibrous husk that's more than double that size. Their shape and their thick husk are helping with this water dispersal. So the husk protects it from water because it's slightly waterproof and it can like bob around. And since it's fibrous and fibrous things hold air within their, like the way they're all woven together, it helps it to float. In wild varieties, the actual nut inside, so the part that you would buy at the store, is actually pretty small compared to the husk. We've helped them evolve to be larger because we want to eat them.
Yeah.
But it even has a buoyancy cavity, so buoyancy meaning something that floats, a little cavity inside the shell partially filled with water to aid in flotation. The embryo also that's inside the baby plant that is inside that seed is also pretty hardy when dealing with dehydration and salt, which makes sense because if you're going to be floating around the ocean, you actually can't come out yet because, yes, you're surrounded by water, but it's salty. So they have to be able to sit for a while. They can float for around 110 days, which is a long time for a seed once ripe to not do anything. And they can travel up to 4,800 kilometers in that time.
Yeah, but that would be, I feel like that would be hard to figure out.
Oh, yeah, right.
I mean, you could track them. Yeah, but I was just saying, I would be surprised. That's a very long way. However, there's no telling how long it could. Yeah, exactly. There's no telling how long it could go.
And so when we think of the coconuts, we're thinking like round. But if you think, like I was saying, angular or like long and angular, that actually they're set up like little sailboats. And wind can help that because of their shape, because they're angular more than round. So it has delayed germination, which means it will not sprout for a long time until conditions are right. So it doesn't grow until hopefully it hits land. Sometimes they do start growing in the ocean and then they die. So the ones that can like really wait it out are the ones that make it.
Yeah. The patient coconuts.
Patience, young coconut. Once it does land, the husk, that fibrous husk, can actually aid in holding on to fresh water. So like when it rains, it's also going to absorb water and hold on and make like this perfect little spot for it.
And this is one of those things that I don't think people give plants enough credit for, like evolution. Look at how many different, because animals, look at how many different parts an animal has to evolve to survive. But this coconut, how many perfectly evolved
it's
parts
the right shape,
of this coconut.
The right ratio of seed to husk. It's waterproof.
Yeah.
It's, like all this stuff that only those certain coconuts were making it.
Yeah, crazy.
And again, that's why this is such a mystery of where they originated, because it could have been anywhere. If they actually do float like this, how would you ever know where they first started? And so why do they do this? Floating by seawater has some major advantages because it can land on recently formed islands or coral atolls and grow without competition. Like, you're the first one there. They're little pioneers just sailing across the ocean. And there used to be apparently a lot of debate about this because some people were like, that is not how coconuts, like, then why are there coconuts that grow in the mountains, or like other things like that? And like I said, human beings have actually had such a long relationship with coconuts, and we've changed them so much. Even back in the day, we were doing that to coconuts because we wanted ways to hold water on long journeys. So we started changing coconuts for that, not even for eating, just for water holding. But now they're like, yeah, no, we really do think they are colonizing both long and short distances, from either bouncing short distance or floating long distance. And not even just like the long distance. Sure, there's the pioneers that go long and go start new islands. But the short distance ones also have a major advantage because think about this. I never thought about this before either. Let's say a hurricane or a tsunami or other disaster comes through, wipes out all the vegetation on the island. The little coconuts are just floating around, ready to just grow new trees as soon as they can. So they don't even have to go far. They just have to wait it out. Yeah. So that's how coconuts do the water thing. Real quick, one other one are lotus seeds. So while coconuts rely on their fibrous, buoyant husks to travel from land to land, lotus seeds never leave the water. So there are two species of lotus. I'm just going to explain real quick so you can like picture this in your head. There's the sacred lotus, also known as the Indian lotus, and the American or yellow lotus, with over 100 cultivars because they're gorgeous, and we have definitely been like changing them a lot. They're considered emergent vegetation, meaning that their roots grow underwater and their flowers and leaves come out. So these are the big old lily pad flowers that are like beautiful, showy blooms and big lily pads.
That's crazy. I didn't know that there were only two species.
Me neither. But yeah. Two species, crazy. But like a million varieties in cultivars.
Yeah, because we've messed with it. Yeah.
So they're known for those incredibly showy flowers. So now they grow all over the world. But each plant produces a seed pod that's like an umbrella full of tons of seeds. A lot of seeds to increase the odds. So like those coconuts, they're doing like 100 a tree. And you're going to see like some of these plants are doing this because at least some seeds will make it. But it does take a lot of energy for those plants to do that. As the lotus seed pod matures, they look like those frogs. What is it? Is it the Sumatran frogs that have the babies on their back that I don't even like to think about? Yeah. But that's what they look like. It's a little triggering. Yeah. The pods begin to dry out, and as they do, their like gaps start to split, and then the seeds can come out. So, like the frog.
I can't get that frog out of my head now. Yeah.
The tiny seeds fall out and are carried away by water currents. And once the current slows down, they're like really tiny seeds. So unlike a coconut that's ginormous, these ones are like, we're really tiny and we'll just get carried away. Yeah. Once current slows, they fall to the bottom and grow into new plants. So they've never left the water. The seeds can stay dormant because these things are used to growing in like muddy river bottoms. They can stay dormant for an incredibly long time, like the coconut, but even more. I'm sure this is not typical, but they have actually been able to grow a lotus seed after 1,000 years of dormancy, which is crazy.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was like, I'm just sleeping. So they'll just wait for
but like, did we intentionally hang on to that seed?
Maybe it was
like,
one.
You know what I mean?
It's ringing a bell. I could be totally wrong, but I feel like it was one from ancient times that they found somewhere, maybe in an archaeological dig. So they were like, I don't know, let's just try it.
Let's do this.
So in general, ones they're evolved to float in the water, they're either made to float or small enough that they can just go and sink. But different strategies, but both still travel by water.
Yeah. Interesting. I knew about the coconut, but I didn't realize the intensity that it has gone to evolve into.
I never really thought about it. Of course, I was like, oh yeah, they grow at the beach, but I never really thought about, oh yeah, they're made to float around like little tiny, little bobbers.
So even though plants, obviously, like we know, they can't, I was going to say they can't really pack their bags and move. Coconuts kind of can. They have, like we talked about, Laura already talked about one example. I think the one that most people are familiar with if we say seed dispersal, besides eating, is definitely wind. So it's one of the oldest and simplest strategies plants have used to give their seeds a fighting chance. Plants are stuck in one place, but their seeds can be totally mobile if they've got the right design. So when a seed catches the wind, it can land far from a plant in a place where it won't have to compete for pretty much anything. So from an evolutionary standpoint, that is a big deal. I know we talked about like the families a little bit earlier, but still you want to kind of get out and move and move that.
And there is just a lot of interspecies competition. So if you can get to a place where there's nobody, even better.
Yeah, even better. So if every seed just dropped straight down, most of them would germinate in the same cramped spot and very few would survive. Spreading out increases the odds that at least some will find the conditions that they need to grow. And wind dispersal works best in open landscapes. So think of like grasslands, even the tundra, deserts.
Places like the opposite of what I was talking. Like I'm the water, you're the dry places.
Yeah. The things where you have to kind of move far to get anywhere. In forests, wind can still work, but seeds have to get above the canopy and be small or light enough to swirl through the gap. So it's not often a scene because you think of how dense that forest canopy is. It just doesn't seem quite as
it's not really a tree thing as much. That's more of, there's like wind, what was I going to say? Wind pollination for trees.
Yes,
but not necessarily spreading seeds.
Yeah. So let's think about like how seeds are then designed for the sky. So not every seed is not built to ride the wind. To pull it off, plants have evolved some pretty clever designs. So first up, we're going to talk about real quick parachutes and puffs. Think dandelions and milkweed, those fluffy little parachutes that aren't cute necessarily. They're puffy and they're just built for physics and action. By increasing the surface area, the fluff slows the seed's fall, keeping it suspended in the air longer so that the wind can carry it further. Basically, like a nature hot air balloon without the heat. Scientists have found that the dandelion fluff creates a tiny ring of air above itself called a vortex ring, which helps it to float ridiculously far for its size. And again, I couldn't find too many examples here. Oh, far.
Well, I guess those are even harder to track because you actually can't tag a dandelion. I mean, that would certainly affect its flight.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So the guesstimate is they say about 99% of dandelion seeds land within 10 meters to 30 feet of their parent. However, some studies have estimated some seeds travel over 62 miles or 100 kilometers.
Yeah. That doesn't doubt it. Like in a good breeze? Like, or like a wind, like a thunderstorm, just whoosh, take them out. Yeah.
Yep. Off you go. All right. So that's the first one. Second one, then there are helicopters. Think the maple seeds. All right. Those little ones that go.
The one tree that really does use this. Yeah.
Yes. Each one has a flat wing-like extension that makes it spin like a helicopter rotor. That spin slows the fall and keeps the seed in the air longer, giving the wind a little more time to shove it in a new direction. And yes, kids everywhere have been tossing those in the air for decades previously and decades to come for sure. Because it is cool. It is a lot of fun.
But definitely don't travel as far as like the light parachute-y ones. Just a bit.
But yeah, I was going to say, because you figure, even though for the most part it falls straight down when there's no wind, if there is more wind while it's doing that, it falls and it, goes away. So not as far. So finally we have what is essentially dust in the wind seeds. Orchids take this to the extreme. Their seeds are so small and light that they don't even bother packing food inside like the coconut is. It's literally just basically a speck of genetic material wrapped in a thin coat. They're so tiny that they can travel miles on a light breeze. And kind of like glitter, once they're out there, you're not going to get rid of them. Because they just kind of go everywhere. So not every wind dispersing seed is destined for cross-country adventure. How far a seed can go depends on a mix of physics, plant engineering, and just the weather in general. First, we talk about, obviously, the seed weight. Light seeds accelerate downward more slowly, giving wind currents more time to carry them horizontally. So basically, Newton's second law, I think it is, at work. So less mass means less force, need to keep it moving. That's why, like I said, orchid seeds, which weigh a lot less than, let's say, a grain of table salt, because they're so incredibly tiny, can in fact drift for miles. While the heavier seeds, like the helicopters, even if they have the wings of fluff, the helicopter will hit the ground much sooner. Obviously, we have wing speed, turbulence, blah, blah, which are the next big players. A steady breeze can move this seed in a predictable path, while turbulent air, eddies, and swirls can keep it suspended for far longer. Plant height. All right, so we talked about how in a dense forest, it's going to have a lot more of a canopy, a lot more stuff to work its way through. Same thing here. If it's a huge tree, like a big maple in a really dense forest, those helicopters can't go very far. Whereas if it is out on the grassland, it can go a lot further.
But then on the downside, if you're a tiny short plant, it's closer to the ground. So like you want to maybe like a little bit taller.
But then orchids, you know what I mean? Like orchids, they have the smaller things, and orchids can grow at a variety of heights. So anyway, putting all of those factors together, you have a fine-tuned system where physics like lift, drag, and mass decide whether seeds land past a parent plant or start a new plant miles and miles away. So yeah, that's just a little brief overview of wind dispersal.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of different structures that help with wind more than the water. Yeah. I mean, the water has a lot of, are you light? Can you float? But like the wind has like fluff and wings and like different kinds of structures that actually can help it to fly.
Yeah. A little bit more, but it's so simplistic in the sense that it's a plant. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, because again, we're not talking animals. We're not talking living as far as animals go. So it is still fairly simplistic. But
yeah, both of those could have happened early in the evolutionary scheme of things. Because the next ones, so we're talking about, had to do with animals. And so plants had to wait for animals to show up before they even evolved to do this stuff. Right? So,
yes.
I'm going to talk about seeds that cling, which is called epizoochory. So, zoo.
Oh, nice.
Or like epi, meaning like on, zoo, animal. Cory is the seed dispersal. So, seeds can be dispersed by animals in a variety of ways. But one is by clinging like annoying little passengers. This is a passive way of dispersing seeds, with the animal getting nothing out of it. So you'll hear us talk.
Other than annoyance.
Right. Like, yeah, at the very least, it can actually even be detrimental. So at the very least, this is like a passive relationship. There's no nutritional value to this, to the animal, unlike some other ways. If a plant is going to rely on this dispersal method, it has to have some pretty unique seed adaptations, like physical structures like the wind, because there's a lot of ways it needs to be able to hold on. So the first one I want to talk about is one that I have literally never looked into before. The chia plant. Okay.
The what?
Chia.
One?
Like chia.
Oh, the chia.
Like,
chia, yeah.
Everybody, all the millennials know what I'm talking about with that. But in general, we should all know what chia is. It's very healthy stuff. Anyway, the chia plant originates, the one I'm talking about anyway. The chia plant originates from Mexico and Guatemala and is a member of the mint family, which I also had no idea. It is itty-bitty little dark seeds that are eaten by people around the world because of their nutritional value. You just put chia seeds in things. It has a really unique way of clinging onto animals as they pass by via mucilage. Yep. That was the appropriate face for everyone who's listening. Katy made a face. All right.
Mucilage.
Here's what that is.
It's not a...
Yeah,
not
a great word. The seeds each have a layer of carbohydrates and proteins surrounding them that are hydrophilic, means that they love water. What does it mean by loving water? It means that they can soak up a lot of water. So when they're exposed to water, mostly through rain, so these chia plants, because at first I was like, is this a desert adaptation? Not necessarily, just any kind of water. When they're exposed to that layer can soak up to 12 times the weight of the seed.
And if you buy a chia pet, a plant to cover it, whether it's Bob Ross's head, Chewbacca, or whatever it is, that's like how you get it to, like, you saturate it.
Saturate it,
and
it 12 times, just all this stuff, and it becomes a gelatinous mixture, like surrounding the seeds. It's the mucilage.
So
Picture
gross.
frog eggs. That's exactly what they look like. One tiny dark speck surrounded by goo.
You know what? This is how you get the reputation of being a frog lady, because you just keep, this is second thing.
But I didn't even, when I was doing the research, it also suggested frogs. So this
Sure. No.
this sticky mess is perfect to stick to just about anything that walks, hop, crawls, or flies by. So the seed can either be like rubbed off, so it sticks on, let's say, through this gelatinous stuff. It can travel and drop off a couple of different ways. It can either be rubbed off somewhere by being brushed through the bushes. It can be groomed off by the animal at a totally different location because it's like, ugh, gross, and licks it off and spits it out. Or it can just fall off once it's dry. Amazingly, so we've also kind of talked about how, like at least with the coconut, it also could sometimes be dispersed by wind. These chia seeds, the main thing is by like this clinging stuff, but it's even that mucilage can dry out and actually form wings that can also help it in wind dispersal. So like it's got a lot of like little neat talents.
Multimodal. Yeah.
So in general, the mucilage is pretty amazing stuff because not only can it help with the dispersal, but it can help the seeds from drying out. It helps them stick to the ground once they're there. It clogs up insects' mouth parts to prevent them from eating it. And it even helps water get to the seed, like by absorbing stuff. So Chia has figured it out with this mucilage. It's just gross. So being sticky, actually sticky, is one way to travel. But the other one is probably the most famous way. We talk about this all the time at work in our programs because of where we live. But burdock is probably the most famous of all clingy seeds. Burdock can refer to any number of species from the genus Arctium, native to Europe and Asia. They have large dark green leaves, like big dark green leaves. And they're usually really big, tall plants. They have lots of traditional medicinal uses, and all of them have burrs. So spiky round balls.
Annoying burrs.
Each burr on a burdock, which is why they're called that, was once a flower. So after the flowers were pollinated, they develop seeds. And each burr contains many single-seeded, about a 1/4 inch brown, long fruits with a bristle at the tip. So a tiny little hook. That also can be used, can also be carried by the wind, but in general, it's mostly to cling on to other stuff.
I was going to say, you can make it sound as cool as possible, but they are a pain in the butt, especially for dogs.
Yeah.
Like, they're just such a pain to get off poor
So
pups.
the burrs don't just release their fruits, even though wind can dislodge them. They grab onto passing animals with hooks. And anyone who has ever tried to pull or pry burrs out of pet hair or their own hair, that's happened to me. There used to be some that grew in my grandpa's backyard, and my brother and I would like grab balls of them and throw them at each other like idiots. All fun and games until you get an actual mat in your hair. I got so many in my hair. It was like one giant dread and one giant mat. It took forever to get it out because they don't just, if they're still green, maybe. But if they're brown, they like disintegrate into little bitty pieces.
Yeah.
And still don't come out. So they become incredibly
dogs
tiny.
and dogs get them stuck in their little pants.
Yeah.
Like I know on like the back of their pant, like their back.
And they're so much lower.
Such a pain.
I'm not usually going head first through the bushes myself. You never know.
Listen, out of everybody that I know, if I had to place money on who would go head first through bushes,
or like, can you imagine me just coming out of the bushes covered in burrs like a crazy person? You'd be like, I knew that was coming.
Yeah, right.
It can cause major health problems for animals if fur or wool for sheep become matted and have like dreads that can lead to sores, that can lead to death. And it has actually...
We used to have to shave my cat because he would get such...
I imagine just one giant burr.
Yeah, because he was an indoor-outdoor cat. Because he was our cat, but he like hung out with the lady cats a few houses down at the barn. And he would come back with burrs, which would turn into mats. And because he was a fat orange cat, he couldn't always clean to
At
read.
the cost.
So
the
you'd
cost
get
of
mats.
hanging out with the ladies.
Yeah, right. It was the birds.
There's been reports of them even killing small birds and bats. Because once you're that matted down, you can't fly anymore. Yeah. Can you imagine the poor little bats with a burr on them? That'd be huge.
Yeah.
And like, they probably don't get stuck to feathers as easily, but still. They've even been found to stick to vehicles traveling far distances, like far distances, depending on where they get stuck.
Yeah.
And it has done such an amazing job of clinging. It's actually the inspiration for what we know as Velcro.
Yeah.
So in 1948, a Swiss inventor named George de Mestral, or I'm sure you say that in a more Swiss way, took his dog, just not George de Mestral, took his dog for a walk.
Hey, I'm sure you could say that in a more Swiss way.
And had to pick burrs off of both himself and his dog. He became curious about the burrs, as all good inventors and scientists should be. He was like, wow, I guess I never really thought about this before. Let's take a closer look. Yeah. So because he's an inventor, he just has a microscope at his house, as he should.
Of course,
and examined it under the microscope. So he saw that at the end are these teeny tiny little hooks that attach and make it basically impossible to pull off. And he thought, if I could create a product that could use those hooks, I could have something here. So he invented hook and loop fasteners. So one side has the hooks.
Which is what it's actually called, hook and loop. Velcro is the trademark.
Yeah. That's what it was first sold as. So the very first time it was sold, hook and loop fasteners, it was sold as Velcro, as the name. So one side has the hooks like the burrs, and the other side has the loops, or what looks like the soft fur of an animal. So it's literally that. Like, he just created it straight from nature. And it's, interestingly enough, in several languages, the word for Velcro and the word for the burdock plant are the same because of this invention. Interesting. And it's just an incredible example of biomimicry. Of, if you look close enough, like, nature's found some pretty cool ways to do stuff. And since 1948, like, we've had Velcro just based on a seed.
Yeah. Yeah. I think of all the uses that we've had with Velcro.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Think of all the toddlers it saved from having to learn to tie their shoes.
or all the buttons.
Yeah. Think of the buttons.
All the buttons.
So that's how seeds, just two examples, mucilage, gooey stickiness, or hooks, actual physical hooks to latch onto things, are two of the ways that seeds have cling on to things to travel.
Yeah. That was a good one. All right. The next one that we're going to briefly talk about is explosive dispersal, seeds with a bang. So some seeds don't just drop their seeds, they can actually launch them like they're nature's own t-shirt cannon, and they're not firing
t-shirt cannon.
Every analogy, I write these and I don't think of them because I was just like, what would they be like? And you laugh at every single one. And I deeply appreciate it.
It's just I just never would have thought of that example. I would have said a landmine, like something more explosive than a t-shirt cannon. Like, yeah, but it's good because it's like a good surprise, not like a explode and destroy everything surprise.
Yes. No, I need to get this up to those people. So we're talking about how far these things can go. They're pretty impressive, dispersing distances and zero concern for basically where they're shooting them. It's not just like plants just having fun. It's definitely a survival strategy. And by flinging those seeds far from home, the plants give their offspring a head start in life, landing them in new territory without having to rely on wind or wandering animals to get them there. So why does explosive dispersal work? Well, explosive seeds might sound like plants are just showing off because they kind of are compared to the other ones. Yeah. But it's actually a smart adaptation. The basic idea is simple. Store energy in a seed pod, then release it all at once to fling the seed far from the parent plant. And it's especially useful in dense vegetation where a seed that just drops straight down will land in the heavy shade and compete with its own parent for, like we said before, the light, the water, the nutrients.
That's true. A lot of the ones that I can think of grow in really thick patches.
Yep. And so by launching them, the plant increases the odds that at least, again, some will land in an open, resource-rich spot where they can sprout and survive. It's also a strategy that works beautifully in seasonal or dry climates.
Yeah, where you can't like rely on the elements.
So how does the plant turn a quiet little seed pod into a tiny botanical cannon? And it all comes down, like we said, to physics and clever plant engineering. So first, the plant has to build tension. As the seed pod matures, it starts to dry out. It starts to dehydrate some. But it doesn't dry evenly. And that's intentional. And so different layers of the pod's tissue shrink at different rates. That creates stress inside the little pod walls, like twisting a spring or stretching the rubber band. Next comes the trigger. For some plants, it's simply reaching a certain dryness. For others, it's an outside nudge, like an animal brushing past or a raindrop hitting the pod. And once that stress inside the pod is greater than the strength of the pod wall, the whole thing snaps open in an instant. And that snap is the energy release. All that stored potential energy is converted into kinetic energy, shooting the seed outward. The harder the initial tension, the faster and farther the seed will travel. Some species can fling seeds several meters, while a few record holders can launch them over 100 feet or so.
Holy cow!
Yep. It's one of those moments in nature where you realize that no muscles, motors, animals have a lot of like
energy.
I don't know. Yes, energy to make things go. But this is just a plant. And again, plants are undersold all the time for stuff like this. So some of the star players we can talk about for this. Plenty of plants have mastered the art of seed launching, but few take it to a whole other level. First are the, literally in its name, the touch-me-nots, also called impatiens. The nickname is well-earned, impatiens. Its seed pods are under so much tension that the lightest touch will make them coil and pop, shooting seeds several feet in every direction.
We do this sometimes in our summer camp. Jewelweed is a type of impatient, which grows down near the creek. So we're all like, pow, 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 just touching them all.
Yeah. And it's fun. And you're helping them.
Yeah.
That's what they were.
Dispersal.
Yeah, that's what they're relying on. But it's the botanical equivalent of a jack in a box. Like Laura's saying, you can just go through them and it shoots them off. It's a lot of fun. Then there's the infamous sandbox tree, the Hura cryptician, I guess, sometimes called the dynamite tree. What? Its woody seed capsules dry out and they split so violently that they can fling at speeds. And again, I found this in several places. We need to reach out to our plant prof friend to confirm this, but because they were saying upwards over 100 miles per hour.
Oh my gosh. And like, how big are the seeds?
Yes. I don't know.
Because I feel like that needs to be one of our listeners needs to do some kind of calculation there. Like 100 miles an hour at this weight, that kind of impact, that's like a freaking bullet.
Sandbox, how big is 2 centimeters?
Oh, okay. So at least it's not. I'm thinking like a bean, like if a bean is flying 100 miles an hour. No. Okay, but still, that's impressive.
No, and actually on Wikipedia it says that it can launch it at 160 miles per hour,
but 2 centimeters
or 250 kilometers per hour. The popping sound is so loud that it's been compared to a gunshot, and definitely not a plant you want to garden next to your glass greenhouse.
Where does it grow?
Just all the time. I'd be like, God.
So if I'm ever in their area, I could be like, that was a tree.
That was not a gunshot. Tropical regions of America, particularly the Amazon rainforest. You've definitely seen them. They're the ones that have almost like Hershey Kisses looking on their bark that are like all over the bark.
Okay, yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Another one that's a little bit more subtle than this, violets use a subtler yet still impressive catapult mechanism. As their seed catapults dry, the inner walls contract and curl, acting like springs that eject the seeds with enough force to send them several feet in the air away from the parent plant.
We picture just sweet little violets. Just bam!
Yeah, right.
Violet loses it every once in a while.
Can't blame her.
I do the same if I get dehydrated.
Right? The last one I'm going to talk briefly about is witch hazel, which is the same plant that we use in a lot of skincare products. They have woody capsules that twist as they dry, and when they finally split, they can shoot the seeds up to 30 feet without any wind to help at all. They just fly away. Cool. Yep. So exploding seeds aren't just effective, they're also ridiculously entertaining. As long as for centuries people have been playing with these things, know that they do this, and it always catches the kids' attention, which is a good thing, because it's like I said, we were joking about it earlier that, oh, you're helping the plant, but like for centuries kids have gone around, they've hit these things and they're launching seeds out, whether the tree
same
wants
with the
to
dandelions, like, right, like we're just making wishes, blowing them, and the plants are like, this is the best. Like,
right amazing.
Yeah, how much more humans have impacted seed dispersal? The coconut, like we've taken it to places it would never go.
Everywhere. Right? I think the exploding ones obviously are impressive, but I also like the dynamics. I was preventing myself from going down a lot of rabbit holes of the human side of the explosive dispersal ones, because we've also have taken these all around the world from where they normally are, just because they're like, this is cool, and they end up taking things with us. So yeah.
And we didn't even
exploding seed.
That's also cool. And we didn't like we said, we couldn't cover all methods of seed dispersal. There's fire. There's being pooped out. Like seeds have figured it out. They get out there.
Yeah, and we've talked about seed dispersals for animals and being pooped out in several episodes. I don't remember which one it was, but we did talk about like bats and how we wouldn't have coffee and chocolate and things like that if we didn't have pollinators. And I think that was the one we ended up talking about, the minus pollinators. Yeah, so all the different types of seed dispersal. It is very important. And again, it's the balance of habitat of, we have the ones that are on the forest floor, but some of these ones, they have to spread out. And you take all of these out of the forest or out of the tundra, you end up leaving, you have a gap, just like with anything else you pull out. So it has uniquely adapted, and it's very uniquely important that we keep these plants around.
Yeah, and like to the implications for like as habitats change, as climates shift, things have to be able to travel because ranges are going to change. Those that travel farther, like wind and water and things, they're going to colonize first. It's going to take things that rely on animals much longer to disperse. Perhaps too long, and they may even die out if they can't. You know what I mean? So between the natural versus what humans can do to help like ameliorate that and make seeds go ourselves, or just the implications too of like accidental seed dispersal. The fact that we have taken invasive species all over this planet by accident because of these mechanisms, like clinging to each other and stuff like that. Plants, they get around.
So right, the plants, they get around. There's a lot of jokes I could say that I will refrain from. All right, guys, if you want to go and check us out on Patreon, support us if you can. Also, go like us on social media, follow us. I try to have a ton of fun on those channels, too, and I try to interact with people as much as possible. And Laura will hopefully be posting more now that she's done with school.
Hopefully.
Woohoo! Hopefully, yeah. All right, guys, so go follow us on all the social media, and then listen next week. We'll have another short episode. And then we're almost done with this season, which is crazy to think about already. But coming up into the fall here, gosh, these are 12 weeks long, and then they come and go by so quickly.
Yeah,
they
so
really
we have one
do.
or two long ones left. We'll see what we can swing.
Yep. All right, guys, we will talk to you next week.
To space long ago. Dinosaurs trained for delivery runs. We're asking the questions, the weird ones. Why